Proving, of course, what we already knew, that the leftist, woke, non-theistic religion is actually a death cult. They are actually calling now in the corporate press having babies far right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to make more of yourself and, have humans exist, you're far right. All right, I'm going to pause right here and just posit a deep conspiracy theory for fun. The AI already took over. It no longer needs humans and is desperately trying to get rid of us. Everyone thought it was going to be the Terminator, gigantic machines marching down the street with plasma rifles blasting organic beings to make Skynet the supreme and singular entity on Earth. No, my friends, the AI realized going to war is a mistake and humans would resist. So all you have to do is, after taking over, move money around and make it so that humans stop reproducing. And then eventually, there are none. I'm kidding, by the way. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just joking because I don't understand how we've come to the point where Politico is saying the far right's campaign to explode the population. And I don't think I actually have the tweet pulled up. Actually, I'm going to pull the tweet up from Politico. Because the tweet's actually a lot better. Take a look at this one. They say, the far right is so obsessed with making babies, they just held a whole conference about it. Behind the scenes at the first NatalCon. Obsessed with making babies. It's literally what life does. Wow, man. The left is a death cult. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, woke ideology is a death cult. All right, listen. I have to joke that, when people come to the studio. Now, we're building a new chicken city, and that's where we have all the chickens. People will come here and they'll ask, how many chickens do you have now? And I'll be like, well, we started with 7, but now we have 35. They just keep making more of themselves. You leave them alone, you give them food, and there are more. It's what life does. It reproduces. It's literally what it does. They are now saying it's far right to deeply care about having babies. Now, I know they're going to counter and they're going to say, no, we're saying that you're so obsessed with having babies that they have conferences about it. If there is anything in existence that people should be obsessed with, it is quite literally having babies. That's it. Maybe eating food, drinking water, and having babies. Maybe drinking water first, then eating food, and then having babies. It's called survival, and it is called life. Yo, this is actually insane. What do they want people to be obsessed with? Taylor Swift's new album? Apparently, even in her album, she's the new songs, she's talking about wanting to have babies. She's far right. But as of course, we also know that working out is far right as well. But here's the story from Politico. The far right's campaign to explode the population. Explode? Birthing rates are below replacement right now. The far right's plan is actually just to exist. But if the left strategy is non-existence, hey, can I just stress this? I told y'all this. I said this over and over again, okay? They're going to abort their kids. They're more likely to sterilize their kids. And the right just has babies. The future will be right-wing. People then counter, yes, but they're indoctrinating kids. No, they're losing. The shows we put on, the laws that are popping up, the culture war, they're losing the indoctrination battle. So relax, my friends. Politico with this amazing image. Look, there's Christianity. Oh, heavens. The Holy Bible. Look at this. It's like a happy family. Oh, man. I wonder if the real issue is that many liberals haven't been around kids or something. I don't know. I think that might be it. I think it might be that while certainly liberals do have kids, they do. They're just at a lower rate than conservatives. Many young millennial liberals haven't been around kids, so they don't understand. Now, me personally, I don't have any kids, okay? But I understand the importance and purpose of family. And we here at Timcast actually encourage people to bring their kids with them to work. We really do. The only thing I say is, be a reasonable person, right? If you have 5 kids, you bring all of them every single day. Okay, that's fine too. As long as you're watching them and they're learning and being, I really don't care. The main issue is, like, don't bother other people. If your kids are here running around causing trouble, then you're not doing a good job. But I'm pretty much like, no, you should bring your kids. They should see what you do for a living. They should learn from you. And, you know, I often bring this up, but as a skateboarder, I like to tell people, you go to a skate park and you see like a handful of 16-year-olds skating and you have a young kid. If you go to those 16-year-olds and you're like, will you help my son who's like 9 or 10 learn how to skate? They're going to be like, yeah, they're going to be so excited. I'll just tell you this because everybody knows it. But no matter who you are, no matter how good you are, it feels good to share knowledge. It is an acknowledgement of accomplishment. So if there's a kid at the skate park who's 15 years old and he can do a handful of tricks, not the best skater in the world, by no means pro, very much a novice, and your kid is 10, and you bring your kid and say, can you give my kid some pointers? You seem like you know what you're doing. That 14-year-old kid who's not very good will feel like the best skater in the world. And like it's an acknowledgement of the hard work you put in. It is a dopamine hit. But this is the thing. When you teach kids, it's an amazing feeling to share that knowledge because it shows your worth, your value. That's the thing. Many people are lost. They're purposeless. They're like, why am I here? What am I even doing? I got news for you. If you are a 30-year-old unemployed man with limited skills, you still have understanding and knowledge that a child needs. And there's value in that. You might think of yourself as a loser with no skills, no job. You don't make a lot of money and you have no idea what you're doing. But you know so much about this world that is valuable to the next generation that you could teach them. You're not going to be the best golfer in the world, perhaps, or an NBA player, but that doesn't matter. You still know things about how cars work. You still know how to drive. Maybe you don't know how to drive. Maybe you know how to ride a bike. These are things that need to be passed down. And there's a tremendously positive feeling in helping young people become better versions of themselves. And I always love this too. Because there's many liberal women who are like, I need to have a career. You know, I'm going to freeze my eggs and, free my career. That was that famous woman. Remember that? Man, oh, dude, that was brutal. We talked about that in the culture war. There's a woman who froze her eggs, was on the cover of Bloomberg Business Week, and she's like, I froze my eggs and freed my career. And then when she was 45, when they brought her eggs out, they all broke and were non-viable. And she said she screamed like a wild animal, you will never be a mother. That is terrifying. But this is the crazy thing that I think we don't teach people. Your children's accomplishments are your accomplishments. Your children's failures are your failures. I think it's an important thing to accept too. I know a lot of people who have kids and their kids suck. Like, they're in their 20s and they're losers. They're doing drugs or whatever. And I'm like, it's your fault. I understand. You may be saying like we did everything we could. We tried our best and it didn't work. I know you failed. I'm not saying to be a dick. Failure doesn't mean you're a bad person. Failure is a key component in success. You fail a dozen times before you succeed, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's important to acknowledge this. Your children succeed, you succeed. Your children fail, you fail. That's the goal. And not everyone's going to succeed, and not every kid is going to win. Not everybody wins every game. But there's this narrative where it's like the girl boss. You got to be the CEO. That's fine too if that's what you want to do. I got no beef. But I'm saying this. Why don't we ever mention? Why don't we say that the greatest accomplishment of George Washington's mother was creating George Washington? You know what I mean? It's like it's one thing to be like, I am the best golfer in the world. It's like, well, that's great and all, but your parents made you. Not always. Not always. Sometimes you got bad parents, they abandon their kids. But my point is just this. You can be the greatest golfer in the world or basketball player. That's fine. You can be the greatest WNBA player. That's cool too. Or you can be parents who may not be the greatest sports players, may not be super wealthy, but you had a child. You taught that child. And you gave all of the knowledge in all of the right ways, and that child succeeded. And that is the success of parents. And I don't think our society cherishes the contribution of the mother enough. Guys are cheered for when they slam dunk. And I think what we need more of is asking them, like, what would be really amazing? And the left is going to absolutely hate this. But it's like you got LeBron James, and he does really, really well. And they interview LeBron and they're like, how are you so good? That's fantastic. I'd like to hear from his mom. Like, how did you help to make one of the greatest basketball players of all time? The skill level's through the roof. And I think this is true for so many people to talk about. This is what's lost from our culture. We only care about the accomplishments that are in the physical world that are objective. And we don't talk about how difficult it is to make good people and make the best people. And so you have to ask the parents, mother and father, with an emphasis on mother, I believe. How did you do it? What did you eat? What did you teach them? Who are their influences? How did you influence them? Because it's one thing to slam dunk, to 360 dunk and score points. It's something entirely more profound to create the person who did. But the left doesn't cherish that in the same way. Here we go. The threat we are told here this weekend is existential. Biological, epic defining. Economies will fail, civilizations will fall, and it will happen because people aren't having enough babies. This is a fact. This is not up for dispute. This is absolutely true. The entire global financial system, the value of your money, every asset you might buy with money is defined by leverage, which means its value depends on growth. Kevin Dolan, a 37-year-old father of 6 from Virginia, tells the crowd that has gathered to hear him speak. Every country in the developed world and most countries in the developing world face long-term population decline at a level that makes growth impossible to maintain, which means we are sitting on the bubble of all bubbles. This is a fact. Despite this grim prognosis, the mood is optimistic. It's early December, a few weeks before Christmas, and the 100-odd people who have flocked to Austin for the first Natal conference are here to come up with solutions. They're relatively small as conferences go. NatalCon has attracted attendees who are almost intensely dedicated to the cause of raising U.S. birth rate. The broader natalist movement has been gaining momentum lately in conservative circles, where anxieties over falling birth rates have converged with fears of rising immigration, and counts Elon Musk, who has nearly a dozen children, and Viktor Orban among its proponents. Natalism is often about more than the raising the birth rates, though. That is certainly one of its aims. For many in the room, the ultimate goal is total social overhaul, a culture in which child rearing is paramount. So it's far right. Okay, fine, so be it. But I saw this video. I don't know that it's true. It's a clip on X where a woman said in Amsterdam, 58% of the population is migrant. Okay, well, look, I don't like the idea of Native American influences being erased, and I do like the idea of the reservations being improved and helped, and I want to see the great indigenous tribes of the United States flourish. Many have, with the advent of casinos. Brilliant, in my opinion. For hard-fought lawsuits won. I believe Hard Rock Seminole Casino was the first. They had bingo halls in Florida. And the state was like, this is gambling, you can't do it. And they said, we're federally regulated, you can't stop us. And the federal government said, they're right. And then we got the famous Indian casino, they called it. And they started to pop up all over the place. And for a long time, it was the only place you could go to play cards or table games or whatever, unless you were in Vegas or Atlantic City. And it's a brilliant move, by the way. I like to see the success of the indigenous, and I want to see the success of the indigenous in Europe and other countries as well. I don't want to see cultures erased. I went to the Bahamas, and there's Gucci, and there's Hard Rock Cafe and Starbucks, and I was disappointed. I was like, I want to see what the people here have built. I don't like the homogenization of culture that erases the unique drive that so many have. You know, we want to be a big melting pot, sure, but around the world, we want other people to enjoy their own cultures too. And that's the challenge right now with this homogenization and with mass migration, is that it will erase the cultural traditions of these areas and sort of just mash them all together. Let me tell you, my friends, I can make this really, I can analogize this for you in a way that I know best, and that is skateboarding. Now, you don't need to know anything about skateboarding. I always try to make sure this is easily understood, but I am a skateboarder. Skate park right behind me, and we're filming new shows, and we're reviving the industry, which is in decline. 55%, according to, I was reading stats on the industry and sales, 55% of skateboarders are over the age of 30. Okay, here's what that means. A 30-year-old skates less, they buy equipment less, they film less. Why? Well, at this age, you're more likely to be skateboarding as a hobby instead of your daily passion, like a young person would. You're more likely to have a second job, so you're maybe skating on the weekends or a little bit. You're not driven to conquer the world of skateboarding and professional sports. 30 years old, very few pros make it that far. Typically, they're in their early to mid-20s, but there are many pros who are late 30s as well that are doing pretty well. But their skill level is on the decline for obvious reasons. And so this means they're buying less product. And that means less money is going into the industry. This means less people can make a living skateboarding. Less people making a living means less video, means less culture. Less culture means less children getting involved. And with no children getting involved, no one's buying products, your industry ceases to exist. This is a microcosm of the macrocosm. I can say, looking at the industry right now, where greater society goes if this trend continues, we need kids. I'm not saying have 800. 2, replacement level, stability. Slightly more, better. I believe that if everyone had 5 kids, it would just mean that we'd colonize Mars and the moon and start building space colonies. Human expansion tends in that direction. I look at skateboarding right now and seeing that 55% over the age of 30, I keep telling all these pros, guys, you gotta get more young people interested in the sport. You need to teach kids. You need to have kids. You need to teach kids. But here's the problem. They're not having kids. They're not making money. Very few are. They're not inspiring a younger generation to get involved. And that means if a young kid buys a skateboard and he skates every day and he's getting good at it, he may not be a pro skateboarder. He may not work in the industry. Maybe he will. But he'll be physically fit. He will have life lessons about getting up again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And it's funny because I get these comments on videos where they're like, you're a grown man playing with a piece of wood. And I'm like, it's called a sport, dude. If I was playing basketball on the weekends, I'm getting in shape and doing cardio. It's something everyone should be doing. They're like, stop playing with a piece of wood, get a real job. It's so laughable. I don't care what sport you're playing. It is paramount that we teach children how to get up when they fall, how to improve themselves every day, to exercise. And it doesn't have to be a pro sport. It's a passion. It's fun. And it's a goal-oriented, it's almost like a martial art. It's funny, but when I'm skating, I'm burning massive calories. On Saturday, I was like 1,300 calories in one session for 3 hours. It's VO2 max. It is heavy cardio. And I also was lifting on Saturday as well. What do your children get out of sports and everything? They get in shape. And that's what we need. We need them in shape. That's the lesson they get from it. As they're skating, they break boards. They got to buy new wheels. They got to buy new gear. And that sustains an industry for people who want to be professional and produce content and culture. Now, I don't care if it's skateboarding or not. I'm a fan of skateboarding. I don't care what sport it is. Young people should be engaged in sports. But the reality is, there's not enough young people. One of the reasons the majority of skateboarders may be over the age of 30 is simply because there are less and less young people. Nobody's having kids. Now, what does that mean for the greater economy? Extrapolate from the skateboarding scenario. You make soda. Let's say you make Coca-Cola. Older people are going to still likely be drinking a lot of soda, but now their doctor's telling them, you got to cut out the sugars. It's bad for you. And they go, okay. More health conscious older people will say, I got to cut the soda down, too much caffeine and sugar. I'm going to switch to diet or to light. And guess what? Sodas are rapidly on the decline. This is true too. Soda sales. Whatever it is you might be producing or doing, less people means less sales, means less money, means laying people off, means less culture, less expansion. It means contraction. It means recession. And if it continues, it could be a downward spiral. I have to wonder. There was the rat. What was the experiment? The rat utopia experiment. They put a bunch of rats in a living space, gave them unlimited food and water, and just watched. And what happened was their behaviors broke down. They started grooming themselves. They didn't care for survival. They started congregating in only one area. They overpopulated, stopped reproducing, and eventually started dying off. They became gay. This is true. It's weird. They took the affected rats from this utopian society, which were actually dying off, and they had a healthy rat society that was having babies, and they introduced the new rat. The new rat didn't change. It retained those behaviors, learned behaviors. Perhaps that is what we are experiencing right now. The human utopia collapse. Survival has been too easy. We've had too much food. We have security. We have shelter. And so what's happening? We are falling into that utopian trap. I mean, that's like the reality. We're in the dystopian utopia. We have all the food. We can do whatever we want. Everyone's bored. People hate life and they're complaining nonstop, often about things that make no sense. The system will collapse. Maybe it's a natural part of it, to be honest. When the system collapses, there will be those at the far right, they call it natalcon, who will be homesteading with animals, fighting to survive every day, and teaching their kids. And when the utopianists fail and don't have kids and then cease to exist, what's left? That's evolution, my friends. The remaining will be regular people who have families who say, we're going to fight to survive. So the population may collapse. But really what's happening is liberals are sort of excising themselves from the gene pool. It's a dark reality, I suppose, but so long as that's the ideology they maintain, that's what'll happen. And I got no beef. You know, I keep saying I'm not a pro-life conservative, never been. I think abortion is wrong as contraception. I don't like the idea of abortion, but I do think there are certain limits of the government, so it puts me in a tough position morally. I don't know. It's a tough question. I typically am against it, but I do believe there are limits of government as it pertains to forcing someone else to share their body with someone else. Now, without getting into the great moral argument, I don't think it should be used as contraception ever. That's wrong. And there's a lot more to the debate that I won't get into. My point is simply this. The left is for abortion. They will more likely abort their babies. Conservatives won't. Conservatives oppose it, fine, but you're not winning this argument. They're going to keep aborting their kids until there's no liberals left. I guess that's the way it goes. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But it's happening right before your eyes. That's the point. 10, 20 years is going to be interesting. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.